Look, the other story that kind of broke towards the end of my program yesterday was the announcement by the United States, by President Donald Trump, of a whole new set of trade tariffs. Trade tariffs, and New Zealand got stung, as I understand, with my limited knowledge of trade and trade tariffs. I wouldn't know a trade tariff would have jumped up and bit me in the nether regions. But we've got 10% trade tariffs on our goods going into the United States. The Prime Minister came out yesterday and said this is not good. Trade wars or tariff wars are not good for trade and for the world, which is a fairly limited response. We have Todd McClay, the Minister of Trade, joining us live after the news at 8 o'clock this morning in about half an hour. But meantime, someone who has worked, I think, as a trade official, trade negotiator, and is currently the head of the New Zealand International Business Forum, is Stephen Jacobi, and he joins us on the line now. Stephen, thank you for your time this morning. Yeah, we've got him there. Have we got him there, Josh? Yes, Stephen, hello?
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, we've got you. Sorry, we just had a fader down. Stephen, firstly, for the person in the street, and as I said, I've never seen a trade tariff in my life. Can you give us a layman's snapshot of what a tariff is?
Well, it is, as you said, a tax that is applied at the border, and it's normally paid by the importing body, and it is calculated on the value of the goods that is entering that country. So in this case, New Zealand exports a product to the United States. When it enters the United States, the duty is calculated according to the value, and money is paid by the importer to the US government.
All right. I was under the impression, as I said, from my layman's understanding of this, that the new tariff regime in the United States was meant to be reciprocal, i.e., if we charged a tariff on the United States for something, they would tit for tat on a tariff at their border, at their end. But I understand that we don't charge 10% tariffs on American goods or United States goods that we're importing into New Zealand.
No, that's right. We most certainly don't. The average applied tariff to US goods entering New Zealand is around 1.8, 1.9%. It's extremely minimal. A lot of goods come in without any tariff at all.
So have they got their number? Have they made a terrible mistake, Stephen?
Well, let's put it this way. It's completely unjustified and outrageous that they should be suggesting that we apply 20% tariffs. There are no tariffs in the New Zealand tariff schedule of 20%. And they have kind of manufactured this, and even though some very fancy calculations have now been brought forward. In fact, it's been a very shonky way of calculating. And,
what possible excuse could you come up to suggest we have a tariff that we simply don't?
There is no excuse. But, in the United States these days, night can become day, black can become white. It's what the president says it is.
Have we got any forum where we can go either nicely or with some international judicial backing and saying, call BS on these tariffs?
Yeah, well, I think we will be using those opportunities in Washington, D.C. through the embassy and through contact with American officials. Yes, absolutely. But remember, there are 185 plus other countries doing the same right now. So good luck with that one. Yes, we can and we will, I'm sure, use the international legal avenues we have through the World Trade Organization. But, the World Trade Organization isn't exactly very strong at the moment, and President Trump couldn't care less about that. So, yes, we will use all of these avenues, and there is in the executive order that the President has signed the ability to negotiate. Quite what that amounts to, we don't know for the time being.
Well, I'm going to be asking Todd McClay about that in about half an hour.
And he's the person to ask about it.
Yeah. So we don't have... So it's completely unjustified. They have plucked this 10% figure out of thin air. I was thinking if there's any silver lining to this cloud, I presume everyone else is getting treated the same. So our goods don't become any more expensive compared with other imports into the United States.
Well, actually, we are. The countries are kind of grouped together, and we get the lowest amount of new tariff that is being applied to us. By the way, this is an additional tariff, so it's 10% plus. If there was a tariff, we're going to pay 10% on top, along with other countries like Australia and the UK. But there are others again who pay much more. The European Union is going to pay 20%. India is going to pay 27%.
Wow.
Vietnam is going to pay 45%. So, we've come off lightly, but I'm not giving any credit to the United States for that because it's completely unjustified.
Have they just picked countries they like or they don't like?
No, they've picked some countries that they like, and they've applied tariffs to them. For example, Israel is getting 17% tariffs against them. They have looked at whether they have a trade surplus or a trade deficit, and they have done a calculation looking at that divided by the level of exports from that country to them. But, think of poor old Australia. Australia has, the United States has a surplus with Australia, and Australia doesn't apply any tariffs to the United States, and it's still got a 10% tariff as well.
Okay. So this really is
what do you make of that?
It's really quite random then, isn't it?
Well, it's random, unjustified, inappropriate, bad, painful for our exporters. The business community will, over time adjust to this. Of course, it could cause quite significant what we call trade diversion, that is to say people shifting away to the United States and going to other markets. But in all of this, there is some opportunity inevitably to be found. It just doesn't seem very clear at the moment. And, let's be fair. Let's be clear, rather. It will cause pain for our exporters in the short term.
Yeah. Now, someone said put a $900 million price tag on this. Do you think that's a good guesstimate?
Well, 10% of $9 billion worth of exports is, there you go, $900 million.
All
and
right.
It's going to be paid by someone, probably consumers of New Zealand's products in the United States.
Geez, you'd think the United States would know, through its own history, how dangerous it is imposing unfair taxes on goods crossing borders, if we go back to the Boston Tea Party.
Oh, yeah, and the Smoot-Hawley tariffs in the 1930s that, led into the Great Depression, these are actually even more extensive than those Smoot-Hawley tariffs. The world, of course, is a different place these days, highly integrated economies and all the rest of it. But it's hard to see this any more than a massive shot in your own foot, basically.
Okay. So we now try to negotiate softly, and Winston works his charm, and Todd McClay works his charm, and we find out if, apart from India, Chris Luxon's got any. Do we also retaliate with our own tariffs against United States imports?